She had everything. The corner office on the 40th floor, a penthouse overlooking the city, designer clothes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Victoria Chen was the youngest CEO in her company's history, and she wore that title like armor. But there was one thing she didn't have. Someone who could see past all of it. Someone who could reach the part of her she'd locked away years ago. The part that remembered what it felt like to be human. And the last person she ever expected to find that in was Marcus Williams, a night janitor with calloused hands and a smile that never quite reached his tired eyes. It started with words she would later wish she could take back, just like everyone else who kept the building running while she collected the credit. Before we continue this incredible story, if you believe in the power of kindness and love stories that remind us what really matters, please subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling us about a time when someone's kindness changed your perspective. Your support helps us share more stories that warm the heart and inspire the soul. "I'd never date a janitor," she'd said to her assistant one evening, not knowing Marcus was right around the corner, emptying her trash bin. She didn't see the way his shoulders tensed, didn't notice the slight pause before he quietly wheeled his cart away. To her, he was invisible, just like everyone else who kept the building running while she collected the credit. Marcus had been working the night shift for 3 years. He'd taken the job after his wife passed away, leaving him alone with a 6-year-old daughter named Lily, who had a heart condition that required constant medical attention. The day shift paid better, but he needed to be home during the day for Lily, to take her to appointments, to make sure she took her medication, to simply be there when she woke up scared from another nightmare about losing him. So he scrubbed floors and emptied trash bins while the executives slept. And he did it with dignity, because it meant his daughter had what she needed. Victoria first really noticed Marcus on a Tuesday night, when she was working late on a merger deal. She'd been at her desk for 14 hours straight, surviving on black coffee and adrenaline. Around midnight, she heard humming coming from the hallway. It was an old jazz tune, something her father used to play before he died. She stepped out of her office and saw Marcus methodically cleaning the glass walls of the conference room, humming softly to himself. There was something almost meditative about the way he moved, finding rhythm in work that most people would consider beneath them. "Do you always hum while you work?" she asked, her voice sharper than she intended. Years of boardroom battles had stripped away her softer edges. Marcus didn't startle. He simply turned, his expression a placid lake. "Usually, ma'am. It passes the time. My wife, she loved jazz. Said it made the world feel less heavy." He said it without a trace of self-pity, a simple statement of fact. Victoria felt an unfamiliar pang, a sharpness beneath her ribs that had nothing to do with the merger. She mumbled something about it being late and retreated to her office. But the melody and the quiet dignity in his eyes lingered. It became a strange, unacknowledged ritual. She worked later, pushing deadlines to the edge of midnight. He cleaned, humming his jazz tunes, "Fly Me to the Moon," "My Funny Valentine," songs that carved a hollow space in Victoria's chest. She began to notice other things. The careful way he organized the recycling, the fact he always wiped the coffee machine's spout after use, the small, folded origami animals, a crane, a dog, sometimes left on the cleaned sink in the executive washroom. One night a crisis erupted. A server failure threatened to derail the merger presentation, scheduled for 7 a.m. The IT team was scrambling remotely, but someone needed to physically restart a core server in the basement data center. Victoria, in heels and a tailored suit, stood staring at the intimidating server rack, utterly helpless. Marcus appeared in the doorway, a silent shadow with a ring of keys. "The override panel is tricky, Ms. Chen, if you'd permit me." He didn't wait for an answer. His calloused hands moved with a sure, technical precision she'd never have associated with a janitor. In 2 minutes, the server banks whirred back to life. "How did you know how to do that?" she asked, her tone more accusation than gratitude. He met her gaze evenly. "I was a network engineer for 15 years, ma'am. Before my life required a different schedule." He turned to leave. "Wait," The word left her mouth before she could stop it. "Thank you, Marcus." He simply nodded, the ghost of that unreachable smile touching his lips. "Long night for both of us. Your presentation will be fine." The merger was a triumph. The board celebrated her, champagne flowing in her corner office. Yet as she looked down at the glittering city, she felt nothing but a vast echoing emptiness. The jazz tune from the hallway crept into her mind. She found herself walking the empty polished halls, following the scent of lemon disinfectant. He was in the break room on the 30th floor, not humming but sitting perfectly still, staring at his phone. On the screen was a photo of a little girl with giant eyes and a hospital bracelet, giving a thumbs up from a hospital bed. Victoria cleared her throat. Marcus looked up, and for the first time, she saw the raw, unguarded exhaustion in his eyes, the fear he usually kept locked away. "Is she okay?" Victoria asked, the CEO's commanding tone entirely absent. The question hung between them, a bridge over a chasm she had helped dig. He took a breath. "Lily, my daughter. She had a procedure today. She's a fighter. Says she wants to see the view from the 40th floor one day." He said it with a pride that outshone any boardroom victory Victoria had ever known. The words she'd spoken weeks earlier, "I'd never date a janitor," echoed in her skull, a monument to her own smallness. She didn't apologize then. Words were too cheap, too easy. Instead, she acted. The next day, she called the head of HR, not as a CEO demanding efficiency, but as a person making a quiet request. A new, flexible day shift position was created in the IT department, with a salary that reflected the experience of a former network engineer. The job offer was left on Marcus's custodial cart, with a single blank business card, just her name, Victoria, written on the back. He found it that night. He stood holding the card for a long time, then walked to her office. She was there pretending to work. "Why?" he asked, the single word heavy with suspicion and a fragile hope. "Because my father," she began, her voice unsteady, "was a janitor. He worked 3 jobs so I could go to the best schools. He hummed jazz while he mopped floors at the library. He died the year I made VP. I forgot. I made myself forget where I came from. I thought the armor would protect me. It just made me lonely and cruel." The confession cost her. She felt stripped bare, more vulnerable than in any shareholder meeting. Marcus was silent, not with judgment, but with a deep, a patient listening she had never experienced. "This job," he said, gesturing with the card, "it changes everything for Lily and me. But I need to earn it, not as a charity." "It's not charity," she said, finally looking directly at him. "It's the company correcting oversight. Your skills were in the wrong place." He accepted the position. The transition wasn't seamless. There were whispers, sideways glances in the IT department. Victoria ignored them all. She started seeing Marcus in the daylight, in crisp button-downs instead of custodial blues, solving complex problems with calm expertise. Their interactions were professional, yet a new current flowed beneath the surface, a mutual recognition of hidden depths, of battles fought in silence. One afternoon, he appeared at her office door. "Lily won't stop asking about the view. Would it be possible?" Just for a moment. Victoria's schedule was packed, but she cleared it. When Lily arrived, small and clutching her father's hand, her eyes wide with wonder, something in Victoria's fortified heart cracked open. The little girl pointed at the skyscrapers, calling them kingdom towers. She asked Victoria if she was the queen. And in that moment, Victoria wasn't a CEO. She was just a woman, kneeling on her expensive carpet, showing a brave little girl the world. After that, things shifted. Conversations moved from work to Lily's drawings, to favorite books, to shared memories of parents lost. They discovered a common love for terrible Chinese takeout and old black and white films. He challenged her, not aggressively but profoundly. He asked why she worked so hard for a company that would replace her in a week if she fell. She asked how he held on to so much gentleness in a world that had given him so much hardship. The answer, he said, was simple. Love wasn't something you lost. It was something you carried forward. It was in the lunch he packed for Lily every day. In the careful way he folded her drawings into his wallet. In the quiet consistency of his presence. Victoria began to understand that his dignity wasn't in spite of his past job, but woven through it. He had served not as a subordinate but as a protector, a provider, a father. It was a form of strength her world had never taught her to value. The night she realized she was in love with him was unremarkable on the surface. She was working late again, and he stayed to finish a system audit. They shared a silent dinner of delivery sushi at her desk. He found a green pepper she'd picked out and absently ate it. He didn't make a comment, didn't tease her. He simply accepted this small, fussy part of her. And she thought, this is what it feels like to be seen. Not as a title, not as a symbol, but as a person who dislikes green peppers. The old Victoria would have panicked. The new one simply reached across the desk and placed her hand over his. His fingers were still calloused, a testament to years of labor for love. He turned his hand, lacing his fingers through hers. No words were needed. The journey wasn't a fairy tale. There were complications, gossip column snippets, a tense board meeting where her judgment was questioned. But Victoria, for the first time, didn't fight with cold fury. She stood her ground with a calm assurance that disarmed her critics. She explained that real leadership was about seeing potential, about integrity, about the human capital that truly made a company run. She won, not by force but by conviction. Marcus never moved into her penthouse. They found a smaller, sun-filled apartment together, with a room for Lily that looked out onto a park. Lily's health improved, buoyed by stability and a love that felt like a solid ground beneath her feet. On their wedding day, held on the 40th floor terrace at dusk, Marcus didn't wear a tuxedo but a well-fitted suit he'd saved for years to buy. Victoria wore a simple dress, not a designer gown. As the city lights began to sparkle below, they danced to an old jazz tune, the same one he'd been humming that first night she truly heard him. The armor was gone, melted away not by a grand gesture, but by a series of small, true things, a shared glance, an honest confession, a child's laughter in a quiet office, a hand held across a desk. Victoria Chen finally had everything, because she had finally learned that everything wasn't about what you accumulated on the 40th floor, but what you built, with calloused hands and an open heart, from the ground up.